It's not just mine, his or her house. This is our house.
Hello, everyone. The show is called The Legends. I'm your host, Tyrone Lowe. And I want to thank everybody all over the world that actually subscribes to my show and show me love. In the house of the legends, he's a chef. This guy has cooked for people like Shaq and Priscilla Presley, and maybe the list goes on and on. But we're going to hear from him, and he's going to tell him his story. And I'm going to add to the stage Chef Rome. What's going on, dude?
What's going on, man? What's going on is that beat you had when we was bringing it in, man. I'm like, I don't even like house music, but that was all right.
Well, thanks a lot, man. Thanks a lot. I
Appreciate that.
appreciate that. I really
Thank you for
appreciate
having me.
that. So let's talk about in the beginning, man. Let's talk about your childhood, as far as growing up and your atmospheric conditions, man.
Man, I grew up in East Orange, New Jersey. My mother, who was a country girl from North Carolina, located to New Jersey, to get off the farm, man. That farm life was rough. And that's where I was born and raised, right there in East Orange, Newark, New Jersey. And listen, man, that was my life. My life's journey becoming a chef started at a very early age. At the age of 7, right there in Jersey, and it's been something that
Were
I'll
you
never
the type of
forget.
dude that was in the kitchen with your moms and she was just shuffling those pans and things were smelling good and you sort of like got kind of like curious and I wanna be able to make that. I want to learn about the elements of actually, putting some food together. Am I right? Or.
Well, I mean, you are 100% right. My mom wasn't the "Hey, come here, let me show you this" type person, but I watched. I watched from a distance, and man, let me tell you something. At the age of 7, I got up the next morning after she made pancakes one day, and I tried to duplicate the same thing she did, and I did. I had that kitchen smoking.
I hear you. So let's take it further, man. I knew that you actually was in the service and
Right,
you started actually generally cooking. So tell the
right.
viewers about that.
So I went into the U.S. Army as a cook, and I got certified as a chef in 1988, man. And I'm gonna tell you, that was one of the most. I thought, this is something that I can do. I thought it would be easy, and only to find out that I picked one of the toughest jobs in the military as being a cook. And but that was the very beginning of me becoming a chef. In 1988, I became a chef while I was stationed in Korea.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah.
So how did they actually take your food out there in Korea? I mean, were you worrying about how they was actually going to receive it or things of that nature? How was your esteem?
No, steam was fine. I mean, I was a cook, so I was part of a team, and we cooked what American soldiers ate, right? And and then it was incorporated because we were able to work with their soldiers called the Katusas. That's what they call the Korean soldiers, the Katusas, and we had Katusas working with us, Korean civilians. So we were learning from them. And I was learning from them, and they were learning from us. So it was just part of the journey.
Okay. And from there, let's take a step ahead, man, because you had a turning point where you was really impressive to the point where you was cooking for like celebrity types like Chef Priscilla Presley, and the list goes on and on. And you want to tell the viewers about that?
Yeah, for 20 27 seasons I worked with NBA and NFL athletes. Uh, that was an amazing time during my life. I still do one-offs here and there. And you're right, I had the opportunity to be the personal chef for Shaquille O'Neal and Mike Bibby and Damon Jones, Tremont Swift. The list goes on. Most of the guys are retired now, but yeah, man, I was very fortunate. to being able to cook for, people of that caliber, even the Obamas in the
Mhm.
second
Oh wow,
inauguration.
that's impressive.
Yeah,
And what type of cuisine were you actually entertaining them with?
everything,
Okay.
everything. Yeah, literally, my background, man, is built off of working up under different executive chefs around the world. And so, having doing that, I've learned so many different cuisines. It made me a well-rounded chef.
And you wrote some books. Let's tell the viewers about some of the books that you actually wrote, because
Mhm.
I mean, it was what are these books based on your chef experiences or things of that nature?
Yeah, the cookbooks I wrote, I've authored three cookbooks: Eat Like a Celebrity, which was Southern cuisine with a gourmet twist; Carolina Soul, the down home taste of the Carolinas; and Spice and Spectrum. Um, those books are all reflections of myself. Those recipes are recipes that I come up with, things I cook at home uh, when I'm here. But yeah, those recipes are all a reflection of who I am and what the culinary industry is to me, and my whole approach to cooking and creating cuisines.
Okay. Did you had any interest of going to culinary school at any time of when you started actually say, well, listen, I want to take it to a step level, or were you actually just saying to yourself, well, I'm just going to go ahead and step out in faith and just go ahead and put my ingredients and my elements together and see how they react to it?
Tyrone, that's a great question. I did not go to culinary school.
Wow, that's
Going,
impressive.
yeah, going into the military as a cook, you were essentially getting the same education, actually, if not more. We still had to learn the different knife cuts and different recipe formulas, and being certified in nutrition and restaurant menu planning, and so on and so forth. So the military gave me the basis of the experience of everything that I needed. I mean, it was just a beautiful time in my life, man, and that I do now is all a reflection of those days.
Okay. Is there a thing where cooking could be so competitive to other chefs as well?
Oh yeah, absolutely. In fact, we do an event every year called Battle of the Chefs. I have my guys and I would call ourselves 3v3, my three versus your three.
Wow, that's cool, man.
And listen, man, everybody always want to come to the chef and tell us, I make a mean this, that, or the third, or my grandmama, or my mama was this, and this. And we're like, listen, man, we appreciate that, because I can learn something from you, you can learn something from me. But yeah, the culinary industry is very competitive. Absolutely.
Okay. So, as far as your natural family,
Mhm.
cooking for them, how was that experience, man?
Well, you know what? My mom was the oldest girl of 23 children. And
Did you say
all the
23?
yeah, 23, 2, 3.
Wow.
One man, one woman. And everybody had to learn how to cook. By the time I came along, it was 14 of them living still, 7 boys and 7 girls, including my mom, and all the men in the family. We cook. There's 5 chefs in my family right
Wow, that's
now. There's five
amazing.
chefs in the family. Yeah.
That's amazing. You know, traveling all over the world and actually meeting different people and things of that. Has that encouraged you to do even better or upgrade yourself to the point where I want to upgrade? I want to upgrade. I really want to really put this into a upgrade sort of methods. Things
Mhm.
like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I'm glad you asked that, because one of the things I've done throughout my career is I tell young chefs, and I try to practice what I preach, but I tell young chefs all the time, become as well-rounded as you could possibly be. Don't just limit yourself to one thing or one or two things, or you can't be a one-trick pony and be as well-rounded as you could be, and give yourself more opportunities in doing so. And so my travels around the world and different people I've cooked for has always made me want to continue to learn.
Right, right.
You'll never know it all. There's too many cuisines out there. There's too many techniques and too many different regions and cultures and ingredients and spices and herbs that you probably never even heard of. And so I think once you stop, wanting to learn or pursuing knowledge in the industry, you just begin to limit yourself. So I keep learning.
Okay. I mean, now you cook for Shaq for
Yeah.
many for a period of time and things of that nature, and
Uh-huh.
that's a big dude, man. How
And a
did he
big
actually
appetite.
react? Huh? I can imagine. How did it feel just to be around these celebrity types and them really and really they receiving you the way they are? How did it make you feel, man?
It's humbling. It's very humbling when you consider these are people that the world is looking up to. These are folks that you one day you're watching yourself on television, and the next day you're in their kitchen. It's very humbling. It's an honor. It's a privilege, and but I wouldn't say scary. Once you realize that, listen, that's just another human being who happen to be doing some great things. And in life, you eventually become a product of your environment.
Right,
You see greatness, you want greatness around you. At least
right.
that's my testimony on it. I always strive for better and greater, and it lets me see what the possibilities are, what I can have, not the
Hmm.
material things, but the access, the level of opportunity and things like that. It's a responsibility to come along with being a personal chef to that caliber of individual. Big responsibility.
The responsibility that I get from all of that also is showing by example.
Yeah.
People looking up to you and saying, "Well, he's a chef," and to the point where uh do you feel like some people, I mean, due to the fact that you show by example, other chefs, do you feel there's any type of intimidation? Like he's a top chef, you know what I'm saying? So how did you actually confront them to the point where they feel comfortable with you, just knowing that you have a certain type of caliber in the industry?
Tyrone, I'm glad you brought that up. I'll never forget when I was personal chef for Byron Cage, one of the world's top gospel recording artists. He had a birthday party, and I brought in some chefs that had recently met, and they literally confessed to me later that they thought I was going to be a jerk. They thought I was going to be, you know, nose in the clouds because I was cooking for this person and that person. And I just have never been that type of individual.
Right.
I've always been one who, because I mentor chefs all over the world,
Right,
young,
right,
old, my peers, my colleagues who I look up to and respect. We all mentor each other. What's
right,
the saying? Iron sharpens iron, man.
right, right, right.
And when people
Definitely.
know that, right, and when people know that you're approachable, and when they
Mhm.
know that you're willing to share and not just hoard and keep things to yourself, I mean, that really does tear down barriers that have been up. I've seen that. And there are
Mhm.
people who have literally said, like, man, we really thought you was going to be a idiot to work for, to be
Right,
around. I'm
right,
like, why?
right.
Why? Being arrogant that's not a that's not a characteristic that I want to be associated with. I don't want to feel. I don't want anybody feeling like I have this godlike complex, which a lot of chefs do have,
Mhm.
because they could do something that most people can't do or can't do as well. I just never
Right.
wanted to be that person, and I could say that some of my greatest clients are the same way, very humble. And if they can be humble with all the gazillions in the bank, what gives me
Mhm.
the right? And I wasn't raised that way.
Right, right, right. I
Simple
hear
as
that.
that. I just wasn't raised that way, man. I just,
Yeah.
I
Well,
just
with that
want
type
to
of
smile on my
attitude
face.
of being humble, but being that type of attitude of being humble, man, it promotes longevity.
Yeah.
I believe that if you were that type of character, you probably would have stumbled against the wall.
Well,
Nobody would want
listen,
to actually deal with you because I've seen some chefs, man.
right.
They act like they are like it's crazy. How do you
Like
get in
they're
there and start
gone.
yelling at people and carrying on? And and things like that, man. And I'll be like, I'm out of here. I can't deal with that.
Man, let me say this. One thing I wrote in my first cookbook is a quote I came up with. I was like, what makes me successful? And that's where the quote was born. Great service is long remembered after a good meal. The food could be really good, but if I treated you like crap, if I treated you like you're lucky to be in my same breathing space, nobody wants to nobody wants to be associated with that. Nobody wants to be around that, man. I try
No,
to treat
that's
people the way I want to be treated.
I think I think is I think is a form of dumb literacy, man.
Arrogance. Yeah,
Where it's really to the point where you're trying to actually show somebody something, but you got to be therapeutic about it, and I think that's not the way to go. you
right.
know um so
Correct.
let's talk about your marketing strategies, how you actually got to put yourself out there as far as your promotion to everybody so you could be acknowledged as a chef.
The Food Network. Listen, telling my story, people being, interested in learning how I got my started, instead of going to culinary school, becoming a chef in the U.S. Army, and that opening the doors and having the privilege of cooking for Colin Powell while I was in. Every little thing kept building and building and building,
Right.
and
Hmm.
and I was able to just stand on those things, that key moments in my life. Like Colin Powell said to me, you really consider getting out and becoming a chef, and then working for Walt Disney World,
Right.
and that's prestigious in and of
Of
itself.
course. Of
Disney
course.
hires the best chefs, and you get some of the most top notch training. And then when you becoming a personal chef for
Hmm.
all these big name people, and then ultimately the Food Network,
Right.
oh,
Right.
the door is open from that point. Yeah, the sky's the limit.
It's good that you got all these great things going on with you, man. And
Yeah.
I'm loving what I'm hearing because it's encouraging. And for the viewers out there that's actually listening to this, take notes. Take notes. Be humble. And you never know what skies might just be the limit for you as well.
Not only that, when you see for those of you who have children out there, and you see that they have an interest in cooking or coming into the kitchen and watching, and or can I help? And listen, that morning at 7 years old, I took everything out of the cabinet that I saw her with the day before. And when she came to the edge of the door with all that smoke in there, she said, "Turn down the flame, it's too high." Right then and there is where the chef Rome was born, and she could have snatched that out. So I tell people all the time, cultivate that. If your children are showing an interest in it, whatever it is, cultivate it. When you cultivate that, you never know what you're going to end up with. I never knew I was going to, and neither did my mom. They didn't know I was going to travel the world. They didn't know I was going to walk in the homes and palaces of kings, or the floors of the White House. Who knew? I didn't know. All I knew was I had a passion.
And that's amazing, man. That's really
That's right.
amazing. Let me ask you a question. How do you master the elements of measurements? Now, let's say, for instance, you have a room full of people and you know how many people is out there. How do you calculate the measurements of what of actually putting the ingredients together so it can actually be a balance as far as tasting?
TM10-112, the U.S. Army Code of Recipes.
Okay.
Every recipe was built on 100 people. And so over the years, I learned how many pounds of, say, spaghetti that it would take to feed 100 people, right? And I kept studying and learning mass quantity cooking. And so all my life as a chef, I take everything and base it off of 100 people. And then I start breaking it down. Or when you look at the back of a container or a box and it says this will feed XYZ, a lot of it is knowing who you're cooking for, right? Cooking for black folks is very different in terms of
I hear you.
what
I hear you.
what the standards say is a proper serving. And then I
Right.
measure by my hand, nutritional standards.
Hmm.
Whatever fits in your hand, that's the proper amount for your body,
Right.
regardless of
Right.
what it
Right.
is. And
Okay.
so it's those nutritional things that I've learned along the way, taking
Hmm.
nutritional classes, things like that. That's
Right.
how the measurement piece came into play. Yeah.
Okay. Now, do most chefs, I mean, do you know? I mean, you can cook for a lot of people and they
Mhm.
like what you cook, but when you
Right.
taste it, is it the same reaction to how they might receive it?
Absolutely. So we just did
Okay.
so my guys and I, 3v3, myself, we did Soul Train Cruise last month. And you're talking about cooking for 3,000 people a day, breakfast, lunch, dinner, late night. And the question that we most often are asked is, how in the world were y'all able to season this much food? For example, we did 920 pounds of oxtails, 1,500 pounds of collard greens,
Wow.
2,000 chicken wings. Guess what? We take the same approach in seasoning those foods on this ship. Think of the equipment is bigger, the pots are bigger, the bowls are bigger, but the steps are the same, the ingredients are the same. And so you work those products and work them the same way. And then when you cook them, you make the adjustments and you're like, bam, that's it. Until I got it.
Wow. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
Actually, when you get a job to do, or I could say a gig and things of that nature, do you
Mhm.
provide the menu for any type of of jobs that you do?
Yeah. So typically I'll take into account what the occasion is, the time of year, the weather, or is this time of the the season that we're in. And that's how I oftentimes will produce a proposed menu and present that to the client. And usually it's pretty spot on for what they're looking for. The key to it
Okay.
is just really listening to
Right.
what the occasion is and going from there. Yeah.
Okay. This is one question just came to my mind. Like you have an integrated integrated crowd. You have people of color and you have people that are white, right? So
Mhm.
most white people don't really eat a lot of southern things like most black people do, and vice versa. So how do you actually make that balance so everybody can enjoy that one menu?
And see, that's the gift. That's the gift of the difference between a chef and a cook. Cooks follow directions. Chefs create cuisines, and it goes back to listening to the client and getting a real understanding of what's going on. And then just kind of anticipating, listen, you cook the way you cook. You take in the recommendations of that client or that person that you're cooking for and say, listen, we have a mixed crowd. And what I've come to know is that food is food. And if your approach is cooking with love first and foremost, people can taste that. And so irregardless, and they know where they're coming. When
Okay.
they've been invited, they know where they're coming. When they
I
say,
hear
"Well, we
that.
got Shaq's former chef cooking," they know what it is.
Oh yeah.
I've
Okay.
offered 3 cookbooks, and it's something different in each book. And
Right.
so it's really just paying attention and listening to the client,
Mhm.
and you'll come up with it. You'll come up with it every time.
They have a lot of people that's coming up right now that's it could be cooking, singing, things of
Mhm.
that nature, and being creative in their own minds. Can you actually say something that might be encouraging to them as far as their crafts in general?
Yeah. Listen, I would tell anybody to learn your craft, but don't just learn how to cook, learn the business of cooking. Let's do two different things. Whether it's singing, learn the business of the music industry. You can have all the talent in the world and you can walk into some doors. But if you don't know the business, oftentimes you'll be taken advantage of. And so when I tell young chefs all the time, in our case, it's cooking, I go back to be well rounded. Don't just be a one trick pony and know what you're talking about because people will call you to the carpet, people will test you, And so that says to me, study your craft. You got to learn your craft. Learn the proper, in our case, proper terminologies,
Hmm.
the jargons, if it's in legal terms, whatever. Learn the business of what it is that you say you do, and
Okay.
then excel in it.
Chef Jerome Brown in the house, y'all.
My man.
You have any current events that they might want to know about? That you might be able that you want to share with the viewers.
Most immediately, if you are in the Chicago area, listen, on March 1st, we are having our photo shoot for the upcoming cookbook at the Embassy Cigar Lounge in Flossmoor, Illinois. Gonna be an amazing night. I got Gina Neely from Down Home with the Neelys. I got Chad L. Coleman from The Walking Dead, who also starred as Cuddy back in the day on The Wire. It's gonna be an amazing night. In the coming months, we got a restaurant opening also in the south suburbs of Chicago. And I will be putting all of that information out there on my new website once it's open. And we will promote this. And man, and I need you to come out, Tyrone. Need you to come out for the grand opening of the restaurant. And we
Hey,
had that walk that red carpet for me one time.
okay. Any shout outs to anyone?
Yeah, man. I shout out my wife first and foremost, man. Listen, that's the love of my life, Evisha. We've been married for just over a year and a half now, and she's amazing. Want to give a shout out to Miriam, my publicist, who sets it up, and she's an amazing publicist. She
Miriam
represents
is
me very well.
seriously awesome.
She is that chick, man. She is
Hmm.
an amazing individual. So if y'all need great PR, she is a one-stop shop.
Okay.
And
And
that's it.
how can anybody contact you, man?
Or you can hit me up, follow me on Instagram on the chef_Jerome_Brown or Chef Jerome Brown. I'll pop up and you'll see me, follow me, and I'll follow you back. Also, the same thing on Facebook. And what is it? What's the one they almost canceled? Um, you know what it was. The one that
Oh,
they did.
TikTok. TikTok.
TikTok, yeah, same thing on TikTok. Tells you I ain't on TikTok much, but I'm on all my social media platforms under Chef Jerome Brown. And you can email me at chefrome@gmail.com.
It's been an honor, man, and I'm very very flattered to have you on my show, man. And
Gotta come get some
just to let
food,
you
man.
know, man, you have a extended invitation anytime you want to come through, man, and
Appreciate that.
give it
Appreciate
away.
that. Thank you
And
so much.
all right, and this has been another T-Lo video production. Chef Jerome Brown in the house, just giving it away. Read his books, hit him up. If you wanted to get some menus and things together for any type of event that you want to go through, I think that's the man you should go to. And this has been another T-Lo production. And you guys,
It's not just mine, his or her house. This is our house. It's not just mine, his or her house. This is our house.